Good morning and welcome back to Questioning Sense with me, Matt. Hope you guys are well. We're all good here, thanks very much. So yeah, not much news to report. Weather is it's grey, a bit foggy this morning, a bit misty, not great. So I have just done the school run. I've rushed home. I'm about to jump in the shower and go to work. So today we are, we originally was going to do a load of decant videos, which are still coming. But there's one, I noticed it this morning. I thought, why haven't I done this review yet? This has been well overdue and it's a really long time coming, so I do apologise. But today we're looking at Blamage from Nasomatto. One of the most important in the collection, I think, but one of the least talked about. Certainly one of the most striking in terms of bottle. So there we have the bottle, and this is a real wood cap. It's beautiful, it's totally unique, and it's rather amazing. Now, when we look at Nasomatto, we obviously can't mention anything without going straight to the top of the pile and thinking about Alessandro Gualtieri, what he's doing and what he's achieving. And obviously there's some amazing perfumes in the house. This one came out in 2014, so it's not one of the early releases. I think the first ones came out in 2008, and then slowly they've been added. And obviously recently we've had Fantomas added to the collection as well. So the collection is evolving. I thought, like a lot of other people, that it had kind of wrapped up when Auto Paresi started becoming, more prevalent, and there was more and more autos being added to the collection. So I thought, like most of us, that the Nasomatto project had kind of come to a conclusion, but it hasn't, obviously. So it's good to look back at some of the more important fragrances. Now, obviously, Blamage is the subject of the documentary called The Nose, Searching for Blamage, and if you haven't seen it, I strongly urge you to watch it, because it's going to be my favourite perfume documentary by some margin, but it's a fascinating insight into how Alessandro works, how he, comes up with the ideas, how a scent or a fragrance, a perfume is put together, what his inspirations are and how he's influenced by his travels. In the documentary, he goes all around the world trying all these different things. He gives the Clive Christian sales assistant a bit of a tough time when she, talking about a very expensive perfume, and she didn't know what a civet was. So there you have it. It's a really, really interesting insight. But the whole purpose of the documentary is called In Search or Finding Blamage, which is this perfume and how he came to make it. Now, Blamage itself means mistake, and the ethos behind it, or the idea behind it, is some of the best perfumes in the world today, some of the most famous ones and some of our most loved perfumes, have come around from slight mistakes, from a slight miscalculation from the lab tech to the perfumer, or the perfumer slightly dropping a little bit too much of this in or too much of that in, and the perfume becoming a resounding success, although it wasn't intentionally the perfume that was trying to be made in the first time. So the documentary starts off with Alessandro blindfolded and a friend of his sort of randomly picking materials from the studio to try and make this fragrance, and then it kind of goes from there. Obviously, we have to understand that there's a bit of theatre involved, and I'm sure there was a lot more careful and precision selection of materials to make the fragrance. So what's it like? Well, this is a fantastic question. I think this is an amazing fragrance, and it's probably one of the strongest from the collection. It's certainly one of my top 3 Nasomattos of all of them, and I love, I've tried them all except for Nuda, which was discontinued a very long time ago, so I haven't tried that one. But this is to me one of the best ones, and to me, it's in some respects it's one of the most important, because this is very much at the heart of what Nasomatto is. This crazy nose. This is everything that you expect, or in your mind you think about as a Nasomatto fragrance. This is exactly that. This is all of that encapsulated. So if we look at the notes, now bearing in mind this is a Gualtieri fragrance, so there are no published notes. So I'm going to say what the general consensus is, and then we'll talk about the perfume, how it works, how it performs, etc., etc. I'm not going to focus too much on the notes for the simple reason we will never know what's actually in it. We can only surmise. We can use our noses, and we can read other people's opinion, etc., etc. But that's all it's ever going to be. There's never going to be any official confirmation of what's in that perfume, or any of them that he's made, for that matter. Okay, so if you're looking for Fragrantica describes it as having white woods. There's a bit of a clue there. White woods, leather, birch, and musk. Now we know that there's a really good chance musk is going to be involved in it, because he absolutely, uses musk in everything. And this signature musk that Gualtieri has devised and developed is prevalent throughout most of his fragrances, and it does become a bit of a Gualtieri DNA. So you're always going to be fairly familiar with it. And by that, rationale, there is going to be a little bit of a link between most of his perfumes, because this DNA is very strong, very apparent, and it's used to great effect. So with this, I'm wearing it at the moment. I've worn it for the school run, and I'm just going to spray a tiny little bit more now, just to refresh myself with the opening, because it does change quite a bit. It's one of these fragrances that takes you on a real journey. Again, my only criticism is these beautiful bottles are only 30ml. I wish they were the same size as the autos, and I wish they were 50ml. So let's have a little spray now. Amazing sprayer. It delivers a really misty-like plume, as it were. It's quite a foggy, misty sort of spray that just covers a wide area, so you don't need to spray a lot. It does spread out all over your hand. It's quite a thick liquid as well. It's very oily, and it's very, very strong. This is one of the better performing Nasomattos. Now, a lot of them have been reformulated. So, like, for example, Black Afghano is a shadow of what it used to be. This is still up there with the old Black Afghano style. It belts out. It creates a huge fog, really, really strong projection, creates a wonderful sillage. It follows you around everywhere, but it's really, really nice. You get this sweet, and it's incredibly sweet, almost fruity, fizzy thing that just lands on your skin and bounces off and goes everywhere. It's delightful, but it's quite intense, and it is a little bit feminine. It's billed as a unisex fragrance, and I think it is completely unisex, but it is one of the ones that leans slightly more feminine. So if you have Duro, for example, which is also unisex, you would class that as being masculine, whereas with Blamage, you would say this is unisex, but leaning slightly feminine. And I think it's great. I love it. It smells amazing on my wife. My wife adores this perfume almost as much as me. Now, under that sweetness, the woods are already visible. They're all, your nose can pick them up straight away. So you have this sweet, fruity, woody note. That in turn changes, and the sweetness kind of drops off a little bit. It almost becomes powdery at a time. And then it becomes more and more about the woods. The musk sits in the background at this stage. You are aware of it, but it's not quite as dominant. Then this leather thing, this is the one that really surprises me. A lot of people say this is very leathery. To me, it's not. There's, excuse me, there's almost a hint of suede underneath the fruit, so I don't particularly get it as a very leathery perfume. There is certainly a leather-like note in it, but for me, it's more of a suede-y note. And the suede and the woods and the fruit kind of blend together to give this wonderful, smooth vibe, which is very, very enticing. Then the musk arrives, for me, certainly, and you get this wonderful, slightly... It's not animalic. It almost has a slightly sweat-like vibe, a bit like Bergamost does. It has that kind of... I'm not quite sure if this smells great or not. I don't know. But because it blends so well with everything else, it becomes very, very alluring. It's quite a sexy fragrance, this one. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's not a perfume that takes itself too seriously. It's a perfume that is, if you deconstruct it, it's very artistic. It does this kind of whole thing. I've got a few perfumes that do it. When you smell it, you're transported into a lab. This smells very, very space age. It's very, very modern. It's, I've used this analogy before, but this is kind of like uber cool Berlin club kind of thing. That's what I get from it. Beautiful people that are far too cool to have fun. They're sort of sipping very fancy drinks and looking really sophisticated, but they don't look like they're enjoying themselves that much. And in some respects, I get that from Blamage. It is a fun fragrance, but it's one that, I don't know, I don't get like a hearty laugh from it. I get a kind of a sort of a coy, almost coquettish like feel from this perfume. But it's beautiful, and it's one I really, 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 really enjoy. I do wear it quite a lot, not as much as maybe some of the others, because I think you've got to be in the right mood for it, but it's fantastic. I do really adore it. It's quite unique. The only thing I've got that reminds me remotely of Blamage is this, which is Boadicea the Victorious is Glorious. And they're not alike. I thought they were a lot more alike when I reviewed this. I thought they were a lot closer. It's just in the opening when this one does this like stewed fruit type thing with some spices. This, because of the fruity opening, or I certainly get a sort of fizzy fruity opening from Blamage, that's where I thought they were similar. Blamage to me is a lot more complex than the Boadicea, and there's certainly a lot more going on with it. It just seems to have a lot more interest to me. Don't get me wrong, I do like the Boadicea. I just wish it was amped up a bit in performance. Whereas with Blamage, you have very, very strong performance. As I said earlier, it kicks out. There's really, really good projection and a really, really strong sillage. It's very, very long lasting. When I wear this to work, I'll come home from work and it's still very, very noticeable on my skin. And it is one that gets compliments. It's something about it, because it's so odd. Now, this is an interesting one. I don't know whether these are compliments because people think I smell amazing, or they just want to talk to me because I smell so different. And I think it might fall into that latter category. I'm not sure that, you know, people are swooning over this wonderful smell that's coming off me. They're more thinking, well, that smells interesting. What is it? And I think that's how the compliment comes from Blamage. But it's certainly one that you should explore. If you've not smelt it, you really are missing out. You might not like it, but you certainly need to smell it just so you can have an opinion on it, because I think it's one of the more interesting ones from Nasomatto. I mean, they're all quite interesting, let's be fair, but this is one of the really, really interesting ones. So thoroughly recommend it. It's also very, very pretty, and it looks amazing in my collection. I love it being there. So there you go. This has been long overdue, so I do apologise for that, but I finally got it up there. So that is Nasomatto's Blamage. If you've got any questions about the perfume, please hit me up on Instagram, or you know, put your comment below the video and I'll do my best to answer it. I think Rich really likes it. I don't know if it's one that he absolutely adores in the same respect that I do, but I don't know, it's just a perfect fragrance for me in so many respects. It's about as feminine leaning as I would like to go, especially when I'm at work. But I don't know, it's just good. It's just really, really good. It ticks all the right boxes for me. It's quirky, it's interesting, strong performance, and totally unique. Someone did say that it reminds them a little bit of one of the Comme des Garçons fragrances. Now, I can't really comment on that because I've only smelt Concrete, Wonderwood, Wonder Oud, and Two. But again, quite a long time ago. And none of them, you know, when I cast my mind back, really kind of make me think of Blamage. So maybe there's something more to it than that. I don't know, and I'm not really going to get too drawn into it because I'm surmising from smells a long time ago. If I do get to try them again or spend a bit more time with them and they do remind me of Blamage, then I will release a video about that. So there you go. Well, anyway, listen guys, I hope you're well. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed this quick video. Sorry, I'm quite conscious of the time. I've got to run out, get changed and then get to work. So thank you very much for your time. We shall see you on the next video. And if you've got any comments or any questions or anything like that, just put them below and we will endeavour to come back to you as soon as is humanly possible. Listen, have a great day, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Cheers and bye.